Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. Ever wonder how I get such crystal clear audio and video quality during my guest interviews? It's all thanks to Riverside FM. Riverside FM is my go-to platform for recording studio-grade quality audio and video interviews, no matter where you or your guests are. I've been using Riverside for the Mindful Midlife Crisis for almost the entirety of the show, and it's made a world of difference in the clarity of my audio and video. Plus, it's super easy to use. Riverside records each participant locally in 4K video and uncompressed audio, so even if you or your guest's internet connection lags, your recordings come out crystal clear. You don't have to worry about glitches or delays ruining the conversation. It's like recording in a professional studio without ever leaving your home, which is perfect for a guy like me who records in locations all over the world. Riverside FM also makes editing a breeze with separate audio and video tracks for each person, and you can even use their magic editor to polish your episodes before publishing. Not only that, but it creates epic sound bites and video clips that you can turn into Instagram and TikTok reels in no time without having to search for them, which is great for me because I hate doing that social media crap to promote this show. If you're serious about producing top-notch content, whether it's for a podcast or video interviews, Riverside FM is the way to go. If you're ready to take your podcast quality to the next level, click the link in the show notes and give Riverside a try today. Trust me, your listeners will notice the difference. If you're thinking about starting your own podcast but don't know where to begin, let me introduce you to Buzzsprout, the easiest way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. I've been using Buzzsprout for the Mindful Midlife Crisis since the very beginning, and let me tell you, it's a total game changer. With Buzzsprout, you'll get your podcast listed on all the major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, and more, all with just a few simple clicks. Plus, their stats dashboard gives you everything you need to see how your show is performing, including detailed insights into your audience and download numbers. I am absolutely addicted to this feature because I love seeing all the places around the world where the show is being downloaded, from major metropolitan cities like Chicago, Illinois, Frankfurt, Germany, and Sydney, Australia, to little rinky-dink towns like Louisburg, Nova Scotia, and my hometown of Sauk Center, Minnesota. The best part? Buzzsprout is super easy to use. Whether you're a podcasting pro or just starting out, Buzzsprout will guide you through the entire process with no tech background required. You can even add magic mastering to make your audio sound its best without all the complicated editing. Go to the show notes and use my promo link to get a $20 credit to your account that you can immediately use to get your podcast up and running. So what are you waiting for? Hit that link in the show notes to start your podcast today. Hey there, I wish we could do this show ad-free, but these products and services really do enhance the quality of this podcast, and I'm a big believer in promoting people who do good work. Not only that, but when you support these products and services, you're also supporting the show. If you're looking for other ways to support this podcast, be sure to stay tuned until the end of the show, and don't forget to click on those show notes. Now, on with the show. Coming up on the Mindful Midlife Crisis. At the end of the day, zooming out doesn't mean ignoring what's hard. It just means acknowledging that you've been there before, you've figured things out before, and you will again. It's about trusting that whatever you're facing right now isn't the whole story. It's just a plot twist. So take a few moments to reflect on where in your life you need to zoom out a little bit more. Ask yourself, what's one thing I'm going through right now that feels overwhelming, but might just look a little different if I take a wider view? And while you're at it, figure out how to live with the kind of gratitude that makes life feel as cool as the Fonz. Ayy! Welcome to the Mindful Midlife Crisis, a podcast for people navigating the complexities and possibilities of life's second half. I'm your host, Billy Lahr, an educator, personal trainer, meditation teacher, and overthinker who talks to experts who specialize in social and emotional learning, mindfulness, physical and emotional wellness, cultural awareness, finances, communication, relationships, dating, and parenting, all in an effort to help us better reflect, learn, and grow so we can live a more purpose-filled life. Take a deep breath, embrace the present, and journey with me through the Mindful Midlife Crisis. Welcome to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. I'm your host, Billy Lahr. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are. The purpose of the show is to help you navigate the complexities and possibilities of life's second half. One way I do this is by providing a platform that gives people the space and permission to share their practical expertise and relatable life experiences that inspire you to become more clear, consistent, connected, and compassionate in pursuit of your own future goals. If you want to listen to some of my favorite conversations from the past, visit www.mindfulmidlifecrisis.com/fanfaves. That's where we post past episodes that generated the most buzz from our loyal listeners, like my conversation with near-death survivor Danny Bader. That's episode 60, Back to Life, where we discuss how Danny's life was transformed after he literally died after 8,000 volts of electricity ripped through his body, only to miraculously come back to life. Danny shares how his near-death experience inspires others to shift from their perspective, cultivate joy and love, and replace weariness with motivation. His insights help people gain clarity, drive their vision, and create momentum in all areas of life. I've only ever connected with Danny through Zoom, but his presence left me feeling connected to a higher power. And like I'm not a religious person. I'm not connected in that way, but being in his presence felt like being in the presence of something bigger. So I strongly encourage you to check out that episode. Lately, though, I've been sharing how practicing intentional and mindful living over the last 10 years has helped me navigate the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of my own midlife crisis. Being more intentional and mindful has helped me process my anxiety in a much healthier way by reducing my emotional reactivity and impulsive behavior, which in turn has helped me improve my relationships and communication with others. So if you're ready to make a meaningful change in your life, visit www.mindfulmidlifecrisis.com and download your free Jumpstart Your Midlife workbook. This workbook offers a comprehensive guided approach that will help you transform your midlife years with actionable steps, reflective exercises, and practical insights that will empower you to unlock your potential and build a more fulfilling life for yourself. These are the same skills, strategies, and resources I use in my own life based on years of research and experimentation to find a bit more calm and clarity amidst the chaos. So if you're ready to take the leap, go to www.mindfulmidlifecrisis.com and take action now. But here's the deal. I don't have all the answers because there are still days when I'm a hot mess. But by sharing my experiences as well as the experiences of others, my hope is that you'll see you are not alone in your experience. When we journey together and offer encouragement, we create a stronger, more connected community where everyone can thrive because at the end of the day, we'll always achieve more working together than we ever could alone. So a while back, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who had underwent breast cancer treatment and surgery. And no, I'm not going to bawl my eyes out in this episode like I did a couple weeks ago when I was talking about my wonderful friend, Aki. Everybody just relax. This is not going to be that kind of episode. This is a different friend. I feel very fortunate that she is still with us. And she really has this positive outlook on her whole experience. And as a result, she feels like she has this new lease on life. And the way she talks about it actually reminds me of the conversation I had with Joy Huber. That's episode 46, where Joy talks about confronting her own mortality after battling stage 4 cancer. So go back and check that one out. Anyway, my friend here summed up her experience with a famous quote from Charlie Chaplin that goes, "Life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in long shot." And I had never heard that before, but when I look back on the existential dread and tunnel vision I had last summer regarding my move to Korea, I couldn't help but laugh at just how dramatic I was being about the whole ordeal. But that's the thing. When we're knee deep in life's mess, whether it's a rough day at work, having a fight with your partner, or just feeling like nothing in life is going your way, it's easy to get overwhelmed with all the things we see are, quote, going wrong. But when we step back and look at the big picture, somehow those situations don't seem as dire. In fact, sometimes they're even a little funny in hindsight. That's where gratitude comes in. When you zoom out and reflect on the bigger picture, you start to see just how much there is to be grateful for, even in the middle of what might feel like a personal tragedy. And a while back, I was listening to an episode of the podcast Fake Doctors, Real Friends with Zach Braff and Donald Faison. And it reminded me once again of this idea of how powerful gratitude in our lives actually is. Now, I am a huge Scrubs fan. All right. I love the TV show Scrubs. I think it's the funniest TV show of all time. If you disagree and you think there's a funnier show than Scrubs that's ever existed, and don't say Seinfeld. Don't start with Seinfeld. Please stop. Seinfeld's not funny at all. Fight me. Send me your suggestions. Use your words to disagree with me by clicking the link in the show notes and text me all of your wrong answers. Anyway, some of you probably listen to this and you're like, you always laugh at yourself and you're not that funny. I know. I already told you this show is for me. The show is to entertain me. And if you take away some nugget of knowledge, that's wonderful. And I hope the nugget of knowledge you take away in this episode is Seinfeld is not funny. Anyway, there was an episode of Fake Doctors, Real Friends where Zach and Donald are interviewing Hollywood legend Henry Winkler. And if you're my age, you know Henry Winkler as the Fonz from Happy Days. But you may also know him as Gene Cousineau. I think I'm saying it. I've never watched Barry, but he's in that show, Barry, Gene Cousineau. Like I said, I've never watched it. I hear it's amazing. And I have also heard that Henry Winkler is amazing in that role. Personally, I think his finest work is his portrayal of Coach Klein in The Water Boy. That's good stuff right there. That's funny. I don't care who you are. That's funny. Anyway, Henry Winkler is widely regarded as one of the nicest human beings in Hollywood. And Zach and Donald raved about how kind and gracious of a human being he is. Donald actually has this great story that he tells where he was late on set when Henry was directing. And he did a really great job of kind of letting Donald know, hey, I'm disappointed, but we're going to get through this scene. We're going to get through the day, and then we're going to talk about it later. And Donald really appreciated how Henry handled that situation. But as Zach and Donald were gushing all over him, Henry Winkler sees it another way. He says, I don't know that I'm nice. I think what I am is grateful. And that hit me because we often throw around this word nice. But what if it's not about being nice at all? What if the real secret to living with joy and maybe even lightening up what's hard in our life is being grateful? Henry Winkler isn't just nice because he smiles a lot and treats people kindly, though he does do both of those things often. He radiates this warmth because he's grateful. And if you ever need more proof of the kind of person he is, and you just want to smile from ear to ear, you can YouTube his appearances on The Rich Eisen Show, where he talks about his love and admiration for Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. It's so heartwarming and sweet how much appreciation he has for Mahomes' game and the way that he plays. And what's even cooler, what's even better, is how Mahomes reciprocates that appreciation back to him. So quit watching clickbait videos that make you hate, that make you angry, and just watch two grown men show genuine affection and appreciation for one another's accomplishments. You'll be glad you did. You'll feel better. It'll make you laugh. It might even make you reach out to someone and say, hey, I appreciate you for all the things that you do that make you who you are. And, that actually just made me stop and think of someone that I'm really grateful for. So I'm part of this. It's called the World Podcast Network. And there's a gentleman who runs that website. His name is Bruce Chamoff. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Chamoff. But I joined it and I had some concerns. I'm not going to lie. There were some issues that I saw with how they laid things out on the website, and I expressed those. And Bruce has always done a great job of reaching back out to me and saying, hey, Billy, thank you for letting us know. Here's why we do it this way. Here's some of the corrections that we made based on your feedback. And then he will check in on a regular basis and say, hey, I just wanted to offer you this opportunity here to share your expertise. I'd love to have you on my podcast. Bruce does this great job of, in my opinion, extending gratitude to me for being part of that community. And I just wanted to take a second here to acknowledge Bruce and say, hey, I really appreciate the way that you stay connected with the members of the World Podcast Network. So if you're a podcaster, I'm going to suggest here, go check out the World Podcast Network and get in contact with Bruce and let me know what you think. It's been a great way to promote this podcast, and I am incredibly grateful and appreciative of the work that Bruce puts into that. But if we get back to Henry Winkler, he is someone who is grateful for the incredible opportunities he's had and the people that he's met, and even the challenges that he's had along the way. He's not focused on the small details that can turn life into a tragedy when we're too close to them. He's zoomed out. He looks at the bigger picture and he sees the comedy, the joy, and the grace in it all. I was actually emailing back and forth with episode 43 guest Lori Seitz. That's the one called Fuck Being Fine. I love me some Lori. Anyway, we were emailing back and forth about this. She hosts a podcast called Fine as a Four-Letter Words. Now you get an idea as to why we called that episode what we did. And she really focuses on this idea of gratitude. And she used to do these gratitude cookies. That was her way of extending thanks to the people who did business with her. And she herself was telling me that she had an experience with Henry Winkler once upon a time. And she can also confirm that he is genuinely a sweet and gracious man. So when I find myself focusing on all the things that aren't lining up the way I want them to, I try to remind myself to just stop, take a breath, and zoom out. I try to see my life from a distance, like I'm watching a movie. And when I do that, I realize how much there is to be grateful for. There's the people in my life, the opportunities, the small wins I might have missed because I was too focused on the tragedy of the moment. Gratitude changes all that. It doesn't change the facts of what's happening. It doesn't magically erase all the hard stuff, but it does change how we see it. When we zoom out, we start to see the humor, the absurdity, and the beauty in it all. And when I do that, I find myself asking, what's one thing I'm grateful for right now? And sure enough, that one thought shifts my whole perspective. Like I said, it doesn't fix all the world's problems, doesn't fix your problems, but it zooms the camera out just enough to remind you that no matter how difficult the situation is, this too shall pass. And that in the grand scheme of things, maybe it's not as tragic as it feels. I'm sure we've all had plenty of moments in our lives where something felt catastrophic at the time, but looking back on it now, we laugh at how unserious it really was. Maybe that's the trick. Maybe the key to finding joy is realizing that life's hardships are just a close-up, and all we need to do is take a step back to see the whole picture. So when we come back, I'm going to share 5 essential questions that will help you zoom out a little and take in a wider view. And if you need some help putting things into focus, be sure to check out this week's sponsors. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. This episode is sponsored by the Bell Center and its Mind Hacking Meditation course, a transformative 3-week journey into meditation and mindfulness. Perfect for beginners or seasoned meditators alike, this self-paced course requires only 5 hours a week and includes daily guided meditations, theory lessons, and one-on-one guidance from Colin Purcell and Anna Schlegel. Experience the essence of the Bell Center from anywhere in the world. I actually took this course last year while I was in Korea, and it challenged my already established mindfulness practice while also expanding on my understanding of how mindfulness and breathwork actually impacts our physiological health. For those ready for a physical retreat, the Bell Center, perched on a lush rainforest hill in Ecuador, is a sanctuary for mindfulness, yoga, surf, and more. With breathtaking ocean and mountain views and a vibrant permaculture project, the center offers fresh, organic produce to all its guests. Join Colin and Anna for silent meditation, yoga, and surf retreats starting February 1st. I actually attended a breathwork workshop with these two when we were all at the Angkor Island Surf Camp in Dakar, Senegal, and that workshop helped me reevaluate my relationship with my breath, and I know working with Colin and Anna, whether online or in person, will do the same for you. Learn more at www.thebell.center. That's www.thebell.center. Give them a follow on Instagram and be sure to check out episodes 48 through 49 of the Mindful Midlife Crisis, where I talk with Colin and Anna about how the power of breathwork can enhance our lives. The Bell Center. Stoke your inner calm one breath at a time. This episode is sponsored by Gray Tonic. Do you ever question your relationship with alcohol? Gray area drinking, and gray areas in general, affect millions of people who don't identify with extremes but still feel something isn't quite right. Whether it's with alcohol, your health, or even relationships, these gray areas can quietly hold you back. If this sounds familiar, don't miss episode 61 with gray area expert Carrie Schweer, where she shares her personal journey through gray area drinking and explains how her own frustration with traditional programs led her to create Decide 30, a new program from Gray Tonic that doesn't just address drinking, but tackles all those in-between spaces where we tend to get stuck. With Decide 30, you'll explore what drives your habits, refocus on what truly matters, and develop daily tools to start moving forward. One of my listeners who worked with Carrie shared that her approach opened doors in ways he didn't expect, helping him to become a better husband, father, and leader. And as someone who's personally moved through gray area drinking and has been sober for over a year now, I can tell you firsthand the difference it makes to be clear and intentional. So if this resonates with you, check out the link in the show notes to learn more about Gray Tonic's Decide 30 program. This might be the exact opportunity you've been waiting for to make lasting changes in every area of your life. This episode is sponsored by Beyond Coaching with Jeannie Love. Looking to create a more inclusive workspace for your neurodivergent colleagues? Or maybe you're seeking effective strategies for your own ADHD journey. If so, check out episode 99 of the Mindful Midlife Crisis with Jeannie Love, a neurodivergent coach and consultant with over 20 years of experience specializing in ADHD and autism. Jeannie helps organizations create workplaces where neurodivergent employees can excel. Through tailored consulting, she provides environmental audits, practical recommendations, and specialized coaching and training to support neurodivergent team members. She's also equally passionate about coaching professionals who discover their neurodivergence later in life. Using her neuroautonomy method, she helps clients develop personalized tools for building confidence, productivity, and emotional resilience. If you're ready to explore how neurodiversity coaching can enhance your workplace or personal journey, book a free 60-minute discovery call with Jeannie at www.beyondcoaching.pro. That's www.beyondcoaching.pro. And let Jeannie empower neurodivergent individuals and workplaces to thrive with confidence, clarity, and compassion. This episode is sponsored by the Simple Man Guide. Hit a career rut and have no idea what to do next? Then check out episode 63 with the Simple Man, Brian Gallagher. Brian once had what many would call the perfect career, a high-paying job, zero debt, and all the luxuries he could want. But deep down, he knew something was missing. It wasn't until he ditched the normal career path, utilized his strengths, and followed his curiosities that he discovered his life's work, helping others find their life's work. So, if you're feeling drained by your career, can't imagine another 15 to 20 years of the same meaningless work, get yourself a copy of Brian's Solo Business Blueprint and start building your path out of the rat race. This free email course is packed with step-by-step guidance to help you find your business idea, get clear on the problem you solve, find those ideal clients needing your help, and stop overthinking and start building your own career path, all without leaving your job, all without wasting lots of time, all without posting on social media. If you're ready to get started, visit www.simplemanguide.com today to break free, create your own path, and live life on your terms. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. My mission is to help you navigate the complexities and possibilities of life's second half by introducing you to people and resources that will help you jumpstart your life. When you support our sponsors, not only are you supporting this show, but you're also supporting your own personal growth and development. Keep seeking out ways to invest in you and your future. And now, back to the show. Welcome back to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. Today, we're talking about how to zoom out and cultivate a little more gratitude when the going gets tough. So now it's time for 5 essential questions. Matt Hazard, sing me that song.
5 essential questions. Questions you got to ask yourself. 5 essential questions. Listen up and get some help.
I just love that song so much. 5 Essential Questions is designed to help you reflect, learn, and grow as you navigate life's complex decisions. Each episode, I'll present 5 thought-provoking questions aimed at fostering self-awareness and personal growth. These questions encourage you to dig deep, challenge your perspectives, and unlock your full potential. If you want a digital copy of each week's 5 essential questions emailed to you, just go to www.mindfulmidlifecrisis.com and join my newsletter, just like this week's newest Mindful Midlife community member, Kristen Feuerstein. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, Kristen, will you message me? I think we're connected on LinkedIn as well. How do I say your last name? How do I say thank you for joining our midlife community? I appreciate it. By the way, if you want to be part of our Mindful Midlife community, I'm still experiencing a few issues with the website. Why? But you're going to be able to sign up for the newsletter at the bottom of the page to just scroll down there. I'm going to figure that out soon. The pop-up will be ready to go. Oh my gosh, it'll work. Anyway, new members, when you do sign up, get my new Jumpstart Your Midlife workbook, which is a great companion piece to this segment. Whether you're facing a major life transition or simply looking to gain clarity, these 2 resources will provide practical tools to help you move forward with confidence and purpose. So here we go with 5 essential questions to cultivate more gratitude and perspective during challenging times. Question 1. When have you experienced a moment that felt overwhelming up close, but later you were able to see the humor or beauty in it from a distance? I have spent darn near a year building this coaching business, convinced it was the natural next step in my career, in being a digital nomad and allowing me the flexibility and freedom to live wherever I want. Only to realize that I really hated nearly everything about that process. I have spent so much time, energy, and money trying to build something that in theory made sense to me and that I believed there was a real need coming out of our COVID hibernation. So I leveraged my experience in education and mindfulness and behavior change to help others navigate their own challenges. I had the certifications, the knowledge, and the drive for it all. I did all the things that the business guru said to do. I launched programs, created content, and tried to sell. And none of it landed. I had a few people show interest, but not at the level I needed to make it sustainable. And with every email that went unopened, every marketing effort that fell flat, and every sales pitch that just felt wrong, I could feel my enthusiasm draining. And instead of feeling fulfilled, I started feeling resentful. And truthfully, it just crushed me. I left behind job security. I bet on myself. And in many ways, I lost. And my inner critic was thinking to myself, what are you doing? What are you thinking? You wasted all that time and money. You just could have enjoyed traveling and not worried about all this shit. And now I'm like, well, whatever. I wouldn't say that it's funny, but it's one of those things where I look back on it and just kind of think to myself, man, I was trying so hard to force something that clearly wasn't right. Like I look back and laugh at how ridiculous those episodes, 106 through 118 were. I love you, Matt Hazard. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being on that journey. But that isn't what the show was designed to do. That isn't why I created the show. But I was desperate to turn the podcast into a business, to make mindfulness coaching a viable income stream, to prove that I can make it all work. And because of that desperation, and I've talked about how I behave when desperation sinks in with me, I started pushing really hard, and that sucked all the joy out of the work. And the worst part is I don't even like selling. People have told me, Billy, I think you'd be a great salesperson. No, I wouldn't. I hate it. I don't like sales at all. I don't enjoy marketing myself in this transactional way. I hate the pressure of making people feel like they have to buy something from me. And yet, I spent months trying to turn myself into someone I'm not because I thought I had to in order to be successful. But stepping back, I can see the beauty in that failure. And truthfully, it's not even really a failure. It's a redirection. All of that forced me to be honest with myself about what I actually enjoy doing. Things like hosting events without worrying about monetizing them. I enjoy bringing people together. Here's a funny story. A couple of weeks ago, I hosted an event at Grand Ole Opry. It's the oldest bar in Seoul. And some people were like, hey, can I get you a drink? And I was like, no, that's okay. I don't drink. And they were like, then why are you hosting an event at a bar? and I was like, because I like being around all of you. I like bringing people together. And I know you all like to drink. You like to have a good time. You like to have this community. I just wanted an excuse to bring people together. And they were like, okay, yeah, that's great. But why are we doing it at a bar if you don't drink? And they just couldn't wrap their mind around, hey, you can go to a bar. I can go to a bar and have a good time and socialize with people and enjoy bringing people together without drinking. All of you enjoy drinking. I just want you to experience this. Again, it goes back to this idea that when I'm excited about something, I want everybody else to be excited about it too. And I'm excited to bring people together and meet the wonderful people in our Soul Share community. So that is the kind of thing that energizes me. And it helps me feel more aligned with what I have going on. Not only that, but I feel more stable now that I have a full-time job. I get to engage with people. I get to teach. I get to build community. And I get to create things that bring me joy without the pressure of forcing it into a business. So yeah, there were definitely times when it felt like the end of the world, but now it's just a great lesson in knowing when to pivot. And in fact, next week, I'm going to talk about another pivot I'm going to make so that I can continue building a life that truly energizes me. So I invite you to reflect on past challenges that initially overwhelmed you and consider how stepping back helped you uncover valuable lessons or even made you laugh at yourself a little bit. Question 2. How do you differentiate between dwelling on immediate hardships and zooming out to see the bigger picture of your life? I differentiate between dwelling on immediate hardships and zooming out to see the bigger picture by constantly reminding myself that, hey, you know what? It could be worse. That's not a way to dismiss the challenge I'm facing. It's more of a way to acknowledge that even in tough times, I still have skills, resources, and a community to help me navigate whatever comes next. When I catch myself spiraling into frustration, I take a step back and ask, what's the absolute worst version of this situation? If I'm feeling stuck at my job, I remind myself, hey, at least I'm not completely unemployed and scrambling for income like I was a few years ago. If I'm frustrated about not making faster progress with the podcast, I think, you know what? I'm doing the best I can with the resources I have. That shift doesn't make the challenge disappear, but it keeps me from falling into a why me mentality and helps me appreciate the stability I do have. I also zoom out by looking at where I was a year ago or sometimes even 5 years ago. You remember 5 years ago? That was 2020. That was COVID. Man, March 2020. That was COVID. That was like the beginning of COVID. Whew. What a time to be alive. Wow. Wow. Let that sink in and shape your perspective a little bit. I imagine the situations that during that time once felt impossible to navigate, like for me, leaving my full-time teaching job or feeling lost for the back half of 2023, like I talked about last week, or struggling to make this coaching business work. All these things eventually led to new opportunities, new communities, and ultimately to a life and soul that I genuinely enjoy. Those experiences weren't roadblocks as much as I thought they were at the time. They were merely detours. So when I find myself feeling stuck now, I remind myself that this moment is probably another turning point. I just haven't seen where it leads yet. I also use this podcast and my newsletter to help me process and gain perspective. Writing and talking out loud about my experiences force me to reflect rather than just sit in frustration. Sometimes when I listen back to an episode or read an old newsletter, I realize just how far I've come, even if it didn't feel like progress at the time. So I invite you to think about how shifting your focus from the details of a tough moment to the broader context can transform your perspective and reveal hidden positives. Our next essential question is, how do you incorporate mindfulness practices to create space for perspective during stressful times? Mindfulness has been a huge game changer for me when it comes to creating space for perspective during stressful times. When stress hits, my instinct is to overanalyze, try to force a situation, try to force a solution, or distract myself with productivity. But mindfulness forces me to pause, reset, and take a step back before I let the stress take over. One of the most effective tools I use is connecting to the somatic experience of what my body is communicating to me. Stress doesn't just exist in my thoughts, it also shows up physically. I've learned to pay attention to how it manifests. Is my jaw clenched? Are my shoulders tight? Do I feel antsy or restless? Here's a time when I was having a difficult conversation with a student one time. And it was pretty intense. We actually had to involve our on-site police officer. It was a tense conversation, and I was sitting with my right leg crossed over my left leg. And I didn't realize that I was squeezing so hard that I was just like tensed up so hard. And the next day, my left leg, my left hip hurt so bad that I had to go into the chiropractor. And she was using acupuncture, so she was putting needles in there, and it spasmed so badly that she had to pull the needle out, the acupuncture needle out with a pliers. So that was a time when I wasn't being mindful of what kind of tension I was sitting with in my body and how it led to like severe physical distress. So instead, now rather than pushing through that stress, I just trying to breathe, release into those tensed up parts of my body and just acknowledge it by noticing where it is in my body. That awareness alone creates a little space between me and whatever tension I'm holding. Sometimes it's just a quick stretch or even a short walk is enough to remind my body that it's safe. And in turn, my mind follows suit. It's the fight, flight, or fright response. It's your amygdala acting up, and being mindful It scientifically shows that it cools down the amygdala. It activates the prefrontal cortex. It lets us know, hey, man, you're safe. You can release this tension. You can let go of this tension. Relax. We're in a safe space. It's a stressful safe space, but we're in a good space. You're in a safe space, and you can handle this. And as I've talked about multiple times, podcasting for me is another way to process and gain perspective, talking through my thoughts, because I have so many thoughts. Why do I have so many thoughts? There's so many thoughts rummaging around in my head. But whether it's brainstorming for an episode or actually doing the recording, all that helps me untangle what I'm feeling. The act of putting my thoughts into a structured format forces me to zoom out. Sometimes just saying things out loud helps me realize that what seemed like a huge problem in my head is actually manageable. And knowing that someone else out there listening, maybe it's you might resonate with what I'm saying, that makes this even more meaningful. Along with that, last week I talked about my good ideas notebook, which is something I use to capture moments of inspiration. So when my mind feels cluttered, I jot down thoughts, potential podcast topics, or even random insights that pop up throughout the day. It's not structured or forced. It's just a way to offload the genius thoughts I have from time to time so they don't get stuck swirling around in my brain toilet. Sometimes flipping through those old entries reminds me of what I've put into action, and that inspires me to seek out more ways to jumpstart my next project. But the real key to mindfulness, and really anything in life, is consistency. If I only use these tools when I'm already overwhelmed, it's harder to regain control. But by incorporating them into my daily routine, even on the good days, it becomes easier to stay grounded when stress inevitably shows up. Mindfulness doesn't erase the challenges we face, but it can shift our perspective. It reminds us that whatever we're dealing with is just a moment in a much bigger story, and that's usually enough to bring us back to center. So again, I invite you to consider techniques like deep breathing, journaling, or meditation that help you pause, reset, and see your situation with a more balanced long-term view. Our fourth essential question is, what is one thing you're grateful for right now, and how does that gratitude shift your view of your current struggles? One thing I'm grateful for these days is the sense of stability I've built for myself after years of uncertainty. Having a steady job, a structured routine, and a clear sense of direction has given me a foundation I didn't always have. When I take a step back and acknowledge that, it shifts how I view my struggles. That's not to say everything is perfect. I still wrestle with questions about what's next, how to balance work with personal projects, and whether I'm making the most of my time. But when I let gratitude take the lead, my worries start to feel a little less urgent. Instead of seeing my challenges as roadblocks, I recognize that I'm in a place where I can make intentional decisions. I have options, and that alone is something to be grateful for. I think back to those early days when I first resigned from my job, wandering around from country to country, trying to figure out my next moves. There was excitement, yeah, but there was also a lot of uncertainty and a shitload of pressure I was putting on myself, especially financially. Every decision felt like a gamble. Now, I have a bit more stability, and that means I can approach my next steps with more clarity and less desperation. Again, just like mindfulness, gratitude isn't some magic panacea, but it does keep things in perspective. It reminds me that I've already overcome so much and that where I am now is the result of choices that have led to growth. And honestly, knowing that makes it easier to trust that I'll figure out the next phase too. So now it's your turn. Identify a specific blessing or positive aspect in your life and observe how acknowledging it helps temper your worries and renew your hope. Our final essential question asks, in what ways can you weave gratitude into your daily routine to foster a more resilient and joyful mindset? For me, weaving gratitude into my daily routine isn't about forcing myself to list things I'm thankful for. I'm not one of those people who sits down and writes in a journal 3 things that I'm grateful for. I don't do that. I honestly don't. If you do that, more power to you. That's incredible. I don't put post-it notes up around my place as affirmations of gratitude or what. I don't do that. But I do spend time in thought thinking about what I'm thankful for. In doing so, creates small moments of awareness that shift my focus from what's missing to what's already present. So I'm not living in this deficit mindset. I've learned that the more I intentionally acknowledge the good that's going on, the more resilient and joyful I feel, even when things aren't perfect, which is really important for someone like me who is absolutely a perfectionist. One of the simplest ways I practice gratitude is by expressing it in real time. If a friend does something kind, if someone shares a thoughtful insight in conversation, or even a student in my business English class puts extra effort into an assignment, I make a point to tell them. A quick text, a comment on Instagram, or even just a verbal acknowledgement in the moment makes a difference, not just for them, but for me too. Taking a second to say, hey, I really appreciate that, reinforces the good in my life and strengthens my connections with others. That actually reminds me, I have some emails. I get responses to my newsletter. And sometimes I don't always know what to say in response to those that feels genuine. I don't want to just say, oh, thank you for that. It seems dismissive in a way. They took time to really put some thought into their response. And I want to take some time to put thought into my own response. So I don't always respond to those right away, but I have some sitting in my inbox that I need to respond to because I really do appreciate when people interact with the newsletter and interact with the podcast. So, like I said, if you're a longtime listener, be a first time caller, be a first time messenger, and let me know what you think, what resonates with you. Because that's a way of extending gratitude. And you don't have to do that just for this show. You do it with anybody. Do it with anybody who has left an impact or an impression on you. Just let them know, hey, I'm so grateful for this. It will make their day and it will make your day too. You'll feel good about it. Here's the other thing. Release the expectation of hearing back. Do it because you know that you're extending gratitude out into the universe, and we need to be more grateful. And I feel like the more gratitude we extend out into the universe, the more that we will be able to be present and appreciative. I know some people will tell you to do a gratitude journal. Like I said, that's not something that I have found practical. For me, it feels way too forced. So this podcast and the newsletter, they serve as spaces for reflection for me. When I write or record, I take the time to acknowledge the experiences, the people, and the lessons that have impacted me. You've heard that all through the last few months of these episodes. I've expressed my gratitude to Crew Nook for yoga. I've expressed my gratitude to Aki. I've expressed my gratitude to Soulshare, to the Johnny Birds, Matt Hazard. I appreciate all of these people. And so doing that, saying them out loud, makes them feel more tangible. It's a way to process and document what's meaningful in my life while also reinforcing a positive, resilient mindset. If you don't have a podcast or a newsletter, if you hate keeping a journal, then find your own personal outlet for expressing gratitude. It can be a text message. It can be something on Instagram or Facebook, what have you. Figure it out. If you don't know what it is, one place to start is by examining what your love languages are. I know that sounds corny as hell, but it honestly has helped me reassess how I express my appreciation towards others and what I want in return. Are you an acts of service person? Try doing the dishes or the laundry for once. Are you a words of affirmation person? Send a text message to someone to see how they're doing and let them know you're thinking about them. Physical touch, give someone a consensual hug. Gift giver, give a gift, right? Tap into that. And if you don't understand so much what the love languages are, wouldn't you know? Brian and I did an episode on the love languages. That is episode 15. And actually, after we recorded that episode, Brian and I were talking about the love languages, and he and his wife had a conversation about them. And from that conversation, he said that he was now more attentive to her love languages and she was more attentive to his love languages, and it strengthened their relationship. It strengthened their marriage. To me, that's a way of extending gratitude because you're aware of what it is that makes someone happy, and you are saying, hey, I appreciate you, so I'm going to do this. And I think that's proof that consistently tending to someone's love languages in small ways will pay huge dividends over time. At the end of the day, zooming out doesn't mean ignoring what's hard. It just means acknowledging that you've been there before, you've figured things out before, and you will again. It's about trusting that whatever you're facing right now isn't the whole story. It's just a plot twist. So take a few moments to reflect on where in your life you need to zoom out a little bit more. Ask yourself, what's one thing I'm going through right now that feels overwhelming, but might just look a little different if I take a wider view? And while you're at it, figure out how to live with the kind of gratitude that makes life feel as cool as the Fonz. Hey! Sorry, I had to. I couldn't resist. And hey, feel free to share your gratitude with me by clicking on the link in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this week's episode, don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss a future episode. If you're an Apple listener, you can do that by clicking the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. If you're a Spotify listener, click the follow button and then click those 5 stars under the cover art to show the show some love. I would also greatly appreciate it if you would share this episode with the people you're grateful to have in your life. And if you do that on Instagram or LinkedIn, don't forget to tag me, bro, because sharing is caring. If you're feeling really generous, please consider making a donation to the show. All you got to do is click on the donate button in the show notes, just like Lilith, who I feel is single-handedly keeping this show afloat with all the donations she's made. Thank you so much, Lilith. But hey, please don't let Lilith do this all on her own. Your contributions help me keep this show running smoothly and without interruption. In fact, if every subscriber donated just $10, I'd be able to afford the upkeep required to maintain this podcast. So if you find value in the interviews and personal stories shared on this program, please consider showing your support, and you too can get a shout out like Lilith. If you want more free resources to help you reflect, learn, and grow, consider subscribing to my weekly newsletter at www.mindfulmidlifecrisis.com. Or if you want to keep up with my travel adventures as well as life in Korea, you can follow me on Instagram at mindful_midlife_crisis. This is where I share my travel tips, experiences, and recommendations so you don't feel so overwhelmed when planning your next big trip. If you're interested in collaborating on a future project together, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm always looking to connect with amazing people with amazing life experiences and stories to share. Don't forget to check out this week's sponsors in the show notes. I'm not here to solve all the world's problems, but I'm constantly building my network so I can provide more resources for you to live your best life. When you support those sponsors, you also support this show, so don't be afraid to reach out to any of them, or if you'd like me to make an introduction, shoot me an email at billy@mindfulmidlifecrisis.com. Finally, let me leave you with this. When you're in the midst of a midlife crisis, remember that progress is never linear. Our growth looks more like the stock market. Some days we're up, some days we're down, and we may not reap the benefits for a while. But if we play the long game and continue to invest in being consistent, disciplined, patient, compassionate, and connected to others, you'll see that that investment in yourself will pay huge dividends as you navigate the complexities and possibilities of life's second half. So with that, this is Billy. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. May you feel happy, healthy, and loved. Take care, friends. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis. Ever wonder how I get such crystal clear audio and video quality during my guest interviews? It's all thanks to Riverside FM. Riverside FM is my go-to platform for recording studio-grade quality audio and video interviews, no matter where you or your guests are. I've been using Riverside for the Mindful Midlife Crisis for almost the entirety of the show, and it's made a world of difference in the clarity of my audio and video. Plus, it's super easy to use. Riverside records each participant locally in 4K video and uncompressed audio, so even if you or your guest's internet connection lags, your recordings come out crystal clear. You don't have to worry about glitches or delays ruining the conversation. It's like recording in a professional studio without ever leaving your home, which is perfect for a guy like me who records in locations all over the world. Riverside FM also makes editing a breeze with separate audio and video tracks for each person, and you can even use their magic editor to polish your episodes before publishing. Not only that, but it creates epic sound bites and video clips that you can turn into Instagram and TikTok reels in no time without having to search for them, which is great for me because I hate doing that social media crap to promote this show. If you're serious about producing top-notch content, whether it's for a podcast or video interviews, Riverside FM is the way to go. If you're ready to take your podcast quality to the next level, click the link in the show notes and give Riverside a try today. Trust me, your listeners will notice the difference. If you're thinking about starting your own podcast but don't know where to begin, let me introduce you to Buzzsprout, the easiest way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. I've been using Buzzsprout for the Mindful Midlife Crisis since the very beginning, and let me tell you, it's a total game changer. With Buzzsprout, you'll get your podcast listed on all the major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, and more, all with just a few simple clicks. Plus, their stats dashboard gives you everything you need to see how your show is performing, including detailed insights into your audience and download numbers. I am absolutely addicted to this feature because I love seeing all the places around the world where the show is being downloaded, from major metropolitan cities like Chicago, Illinois, Frankfurt, Germany, and Sydney, Australia, to little rinky-dink towns like Louisburg, Nova Scotia, and my hometown of Sauk Center, Minnesota. The best part? Buzzsprout is super easy to use. Whether you're a podcasting pro or just starting out, Buzzsprout will guide you through the entire process with no tech background required. You can even add magic mastering to make your audio sound its best without all the complicated editing. Go to the show notes and use my promo link to get a $20 credit to your account that you can immediately use to get your podcast up and running. So what are you waiting for? Hit that link in the show notes to start your podcast today. Hey there, I wish we could do this show ad-free, but these products and services really do enhance the quality of this podcast, and I'm a big believer in promoting people who do good work. Not only that, but when you support these products and services, you're also supporting the show. If you're looking for other ways to support this podcast, don't forget to click on those show notes. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Midlife Crisis.